Washington coming to Detroit this Sunday. Let's Talk Lions. Welcome back to an all-new episode here at Let's Talk Lions. My name is Jay. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for subscribing to the channel if you're a Lions fan. For all your Lions news and thoughts and things and whatever else comes out of my mouth. First thing goes out to Washington fans in general. I would just love, if you're a Washington fan, how do you feel about being named the Commanders? Is that the name that you wanted, or do you wish you stayed the Washington football team? Just as an NFL fan, I kind of wish you guys stayed as the football team. Just my own thought. I'm not a big fan of it, but hey, I'm kind of wondering how Washington fans feel in general. So if you're a Washington fan, drop the thoughts in the comments. Lions fans and Washington fans, drop your score predictions in the comments as well. Who's winning this game? Now, let's talk about what it's going to take for the Lions to win. The key elements coming into this. Now, we know that for the first time in what seems to be 24 games, the Lions are actually favored to win, which I love and hate at the same time. Like, what a bummer that it's been 24 games, but makes sense. So let's break this down. First and foremost, we got to talk about DeAndre Swift and his impact. What we saw out of Swifty last week against Philly was huge. He's just so electric. Watching him, his speed and what he can do in open space is truly astounding, and it's so much fun, man. Versus Philly last week, he had 15 attempts, and in those 15, he put up 147 yards. He had the third best rushing performance in week 1 of the NFL. Like, we got a guy in Swift, and we're gonna need to see that again this week. Now, it's also worth noting that he did roll his ankle against Philly, I believe in the second quarter. It was in the first half, rolls his ankle, and yet he came out, continued to perform. He put up 47 yards in the second half. So he still was able to perform, did not practice earlier this week. However, he said that he will be just fine for game day, which personally, I like resting either a running back or an O-lineman, because man, they take such a beating, such a brunt out on the field. A lot of times when you see it's like, oh, these guys didn't practice, that fear can kind of creep in of like, oh my God, are they okay? Personally, I'm just like, I just hope you're resting them, because those guys take such a beating. Let them have some rest. So Swift being able to say, no, I'm going to be good for game day is huge. Washington's rush defense was not great against Jacksonville. Now, they were pretty good last year, but against Jacksonville week 1, they weren't great. In fact, they were just meh. I mean, we do know that their star edge, Chase Young, is on the pup. He's out for at least 4 or 5 weeks, from what we understand. So we do not have to worry about Chase Young. Washington not having Chase Young, that's detrimental to them, and that is huge for our O-line, our banged up and bruised O-line, but it's also huge for Goff and for Swift, Williams in the backfield. I feel bad for Washington in general regarding that. However, it works out for us coming into this week. Now, don't get me wrong, Washington's D-line still found a way to get to Trevor Lawrence, to get to Jags QB last week. However, no Chase Young, that's detrimental to them. And so we really need to see, I'm hoping Decker and his calf is okay. Jonah Jackson and the finger, whichever one it is okay. Ragnow, the foot, the groin. Like, hey guys, Lions O-line took a beating last week, and we have been in some, who knows, some sort of limbo, purgatory, Abraham's bosom land for the last week, just waiting to hear, hey, which one of these guys are okay. We know that Vaitai just got back surgery, but hearing that these other guys have gone down and out and they haven't practiced is a little bit scary. Hopefully we see Decker, Jonah Jackson, and Ragnow back out there in order to stifle Washington's pressure. Because again, it wasn't the best last week. However, we have a great O-line. But got to have all those guys in there. They got to be healthy in order to have a great O-line here in Detroit. First and foremost, I think the key element coming into this game is Swift on the ground. Swifty is a huge component to our offense, and that's something that we're going to get into a little bit later as our offense as a whole. But let's move on to number 2. It's capitalizing on turnovers. Because if there's one thing we know about Carson Wentz, it's that he loves to throw an interception. That man, it's as if there's a bookie somewhere paying Wentz to throw interceptions. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, he is a wild ride to watch. Carson Wentz, when he's on, man. And he is a fun QB at the helm. But when he is off, or when he is under heavy pressure, when he just decides, hey man, it's time to throw a pick because that's what I like to do, then that's what he does, because I don't know what it is, but man, the Detroit Lions absolutely need to capitalize on Wentz's capabilities, on Wentz's love for throwing interceptions. I think we see Amani Oruwariye pick a ball off here. You know what? We know that Wentz's wide receiver options are pretty solid. They're sneaky good, the wide receiver core for Washington. However, if we can apply pressure up front, Aiden Hutchinson finally getting that first NFL sack, Aleem McNeil, the big boys up front, apply the pressure to Wentz. Make him throw the ball where he doesn't want to, where he shouldn't, because that's what Wentz does. Then the Detroit Lions maybe can make a couple turnovers and then capitalize on said turnovers. That's what's going to be huge. That's what's going to be huge, is causing turnovers, causing Wentz, putting the pressure on him, making him throw an interception, and then taking that. And we got to put up 6+ points on any interception or turnover that we can get. Anything that they give us, we have to capitalize on. Too often, when we do get a turnover, the Lions either put up 3 or just punt it away. We need 6+. We need 6+ on anything that Carson Wentz is willing to give us. Gotta win the turnover game against Washington. I look at Washington and I look at Detroit. I see two comparable teams. I see two teams where at the end of the year, if we have the exact same record, I'm going to shrug and say, yeah, that makes sense. Us and Washington, though vastly different teams, have this weird, I just feel like their record's going to be our record at the end of this season. Now, listen, there's a lot of things that we could go over in this game. However, I'm trying to boil it down to 3, and I mentioned it earlier, which comes to my last key element, and it's our offense. Our wide receivers gotta be better. They just gotta be better. It's time for DJ Chark to make a breakout flyaway on the sideline and pull in a huge catch. It's time to see the spider of death that we've heard about in Josh Reynolds. It's time to see TJ Hockenson catch a ball and actually shoulder somebody to the ground. It's time for St. Brown to continue that 8+ reception record going. I want to see our wide receiver core be what it's been chalked up to be this offseason. Man, I've been chalking it up to be more. But last week, the chemistry wasn't there. They did not look good. Hockenson running wrong routes, Chark running wrong routes, St. Brown dropping balls. There was no chemistry. There was no flow. We had too many 3-and-outs in a row. The wide receiving core here in Detroit, that has gotten better, that has progressed, has to actually show that they progressed. Training camp's great, man. Preseason's great, man. It's awesome when you can see these guys making plays. It's cool. Doesn't matter. When push comes to shove on game day, on a Sunday, here in the NFL, you gotta make it happen. And we did not last week against Philly. It was kind of embarrassing. Some of the wrong routes run, some of the drop balls. I'm just sitting there and I'm like, we are relying on DeAndre Swift because in the passing game, we couldn't quite get it going. We need the wide receiver core to be better. We just looked disheveled last week. So if our boys can make these catches, if we're not going 50% on attempts versus reception, because I'm looking down the line and we were like 1 for 3 on Reynolds. It was 4 for 8 on Chark. It was 4 for 7, 4 for 8 on TJ Hockenson. Like everything was 50% or less. No good. St. Brown was the only one. He was 8 for 12. But still, a couple drop passes, inexcusable. Washington's cornerback duo isn't great. In fact, they were pretty bad last week. Not a shot at Washington. It's just me saying our wide receiver core, I want to see DJ Chark on a flyaway, going big time, and Goff hitting them deep, going for that TD. I want to see us apply the pressure to that cornerback duo. I want to see this wide receiver core be what we've chalked it up to be. I think if we can, and establishing the run with DeAndre Swift, we have a shot at putting up some serious points up against Washington. Defensively, we had our struggles, we had our woes, but you know what? Jeff Okudah showed up. Malcolm Rodriguez showed up. Amani looked good. Like, had Jalen Hurts not been the quarterback last week, we would have beat Philly. You put Carson Wentz back on Philadelphia last week, I think we win. Lions should win this game. In fact, my prediction for this game is Detroit wins 27-20. I think our defense isn't where we need to be yet in order to keep them under 20 points. And Washington's wide receivers are sneaky good, so I think they throw up 20. However, Detroit's offense was able to put up some serious points last week. I think we're able to do it again. 27-20, Detroit, first W on the board. What are your thoughts? Drop it in the comments. Let me know your score prediction. And as always, I'll catch you next time here on Let's Talk Lions.